You know, right now, in this very moment, there's something weighing on your heart. There's something that's been keeping you up at night. There's a situation in your life that feels unbearable, and you've been carrying it around like a heavy stone, trying to figure it out, trying to control it, trying to make it turn out the way you think it should. And I want to tell you something that might just change everything for you today. It's time to put that burden down. It's time to leave it in God's hands. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but I've tried everything. I've prayed, I've hoped, I've worked so hard, and nothing's changed. And that's exactly the point. You've been trying to do it all yourself. You've been holding on so tight to your problems, to your pain, to your circumstances, that you've forgotten something fundamental about how this universe works. You've forgotten that there's a power greater than you, a wisdom far beyond your limited perspective, and an intelligence that orchestrates everything in perfect timing. When you're in pain, when you're hurting, when you're going through something that feels like it's tearing you apart, it's the most natural thing in the world to try to fix it yourself. We're conditioned to believe that we have to control everything, that we have to have all the answers, that if we just work hard enough, or think hard enough, or worry hard enough, we can somehow force life to bend to our will. But let me tell you something that's going to set you free. You were never meant to carry these burdens alone. You were never designed to figure everything out by yourself. And the moment you truly understand this, the moment you really let it sink into your consciousness, everything shifts. God sees your pain. Every tear you've cried in the darkness, every moment you felt alone, every time your heart has broken into what feels like a million pieces, none of it has gone unnoticed. None of it has been ignored. The divine presence that created you, that breathed life into you, that knows every single hair on your head, sees everything you're going through. And not only does God see your pain, but God hears your cry. Every prayer, every desperate plea, every whispered help me in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep, every single one has been heard. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that because they've prayed and things haven't changed yet, that God isn't listening. They think that because they're still in pain, still in the struggle, still in the darkness, that somehow they've been abandoned. And this couldn't be further from the truth. You see, God's timing is not your timing. God's ways are not your ways. And what you're perceiving as silence is actually the universe rearranging itself on your behalf. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every single day to check if it's growing. You don't stand over it and worry and stress and try to force it to sprout faster. You plant it, you water it, you give it sunlight, and then you trust. You trust the process. You trust that beneath the surface, in the darkness of the soil, something miraculous is happening. The seed is breaking open, roots are forming, life is preparing to burst forth. But all of this happens in a time frame that the seed knows, not in the time frame you demand. Your life works the same way. The challenges you're facing right now, the pain you're experiencing, the situations that seem impossible, they're all seeds that have been planted. And yes, it's dark right now. Yes, it feels like nothing is happening. Yes, it seems like your prayers are falling on deaf ears. But I promise you, beneath the surface of what you can see, God is working. The universe is conspiring on your behalf. Things are shifting and changing and moving in ways that you cannot perceive with your limited human perspective. The problem is, we want instant results. We want our pain to disappear overnight. We want our problems solved immediately. We want what we want, and we want it now. And when it doesn't happen according to our schedule, we lose faith. We start to doubt. We begin to think that we're doing something wrong, or that we're not worthy, or that God has forgotten about us. But this is where we need to shift our understanding completely. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or giving up or resigning yourself to misery. What it means is doing what you can do, taking the actions that are yours to take, and then releasing your attachment to the outcome. It means understanding that you're not the one in control of how things unfold. You're not the director of this movie. You're not the author who gets to write every single plot twist. You're a participant in a much larger story, and there's a wisdom guiding that story that's far greater than anything you could comprehend. When you truly leave something in God's hands, you're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. You're admitting that your perspective is limited. You're recognizing that what you think you want might not actually be what's best for you. And this takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous faith, because it means letting go of control. And for most of us, that's the scariest thing in the world. But here's what happens when you really do this. When you really surrender your burdens, when you really trust that God has got this, when you really believe that the universe is working for you and not against you, a weight lifts. The anxiety that's been crushing your chest starts to ease. The fear that's been keeping you paralyzed begins to fade. And in its place comes a peace that surpasses all understanding. Not because your circumstances have changed yet, but because your relationship to those circumstances has transformed. You stop waking up every morning with that immediate rush of dread. You stop going to bed every night with your mind racing through all the worst-case scenarios. You stop carrying that tension in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach, that heaviness in your heart, because you finally understood that this isn't all on you. You finally realized that you don't have to have all the figured out. You finally accepted that it's okay to not be in control. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to control everything, the moment you surrender to the flow of life, the moment you trust in something greater than yourself, that's when things actually start to shift. That's when solutions appear that you never could have thought of. That's when doors open that you didn't even know existed. That's when people show up in your life who bring exactly what you need. That's when circumstances align in ways that seem almost miraculous. But you have to understand something important. God's plan for you might not look like your plan for you. The way your life unfolds might not match the picture you had in your mind. And this is actually a blessing, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. Because your limited perspective can only see what you think you want based on your past experiences, your conditioning, your fears, and your ego's desires. But God sees the bigger picture. God knows what you actually need to grow, to evolve, to become the person you're meant to be. Sometimes what looks like a rejection is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually divine timing. Sometimes what seems like a door closing is actually the universe redirecting you to something better. But you can't see this when you're in the middle of the pain. You can't understand it when you're in the thick of the struggle. You can only see it when you look back, when you're on the other side, when you realize that everything happened exactly as it needed to happen. I know you're hurting right now. I know you're tired. I know you've been strong for so long and you just want this to be over. I know you've been praying and hoping and doing everything you know how to do, and you're exhausted. And I want you to know that it's okay to be tired. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to admit that you can't do this alone. Because that admission, that vulnerability, that honest acknowledgement of your limitations, that's not weakness. That's actually the beginning of true strength. True strength isn't about never breaking. It's not about always being in control. It's not about having all the answers or never showing your pain. True strength is about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It's about doing your part and then trusting God to do the rest. It's about being willing to walk through the darkness with faith, even when you can't see where you're going. And faith, real faith, isn't about being certain of the outcome. It's not about knowing exactly how things are going to turn out. Real faith is about trusting the process even when you can't see the result. It's about believing that you're being guided even when the path is unclear. It's about knowing that you're being held even when you feel like you're falling. You see, God hears your cry not just as sound, but as the deepest longing of your soul. And the response isn't always what you expect. Sometimes the answer to your prayer isn't getting what you asked for. Sometimes the answer is getting what you need. Sometimes the answer is developing the strength to handle whatever comes. Sometimes the answer is learning to find peace regardless of your circumstances. Sometimes the answer is becoming a different person, someone who no longer needs the situation to change in order to be okay. This is the transformation that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. You stop being controlled by your circumstances. You stop letting external conditions determine your internal state. You start to understand that peace isn't something you find when everything works out the way you want. Peace is something you cultivate from within, regardless of what's happening around you. And I want to be clear about something. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or detached or indifferent. It means you care deeply, you give it your all, you do everything that's genuinely yours to do, and then you release the outcome. You trust that whatever happens, even if it's not what you wanted, even if it's not what you expected, it's what's needed for your highest good and your greatest growth. Think about the times in your life when things didn't work out the way you planned. Think about the times when you were devastated because something you wanted so badly didn't happen. or something you loved so much was taken away. Now look at where you are today. Can you see how those moments, as painful as they were, led you to something better? Can you see how those closed doors eventually led you to open windows? Can you see how what felt like the worst thing that could happen actually became a turning point? This is the pattern of how life works when you're aligned with the divine flow. This is what happens when you trust in something greater than yourself. This is the evidence that God is always working on your behalf, even when it doesn't feel like it, even when you can't see it, even when you want to give up. Your pain is not permanent. Your struggle is not your identity. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They're just a chapter in your story, and the author of your story is writing something far more beautiful than you could write for yourself. But you have to let the story unfold. You have to stop trying to skip ahead to the end. You have to stop trying to rewrite every scene that doesn't match your expectations. When you're going through difficult times, it's easy to forget who you really are. It's easy to get so consumed by the problem that you lose sight of your own divine nature. But you are not your problems. You are not your pain. You are not your circumstances. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and that spiritual essence within you is connected to the same power that created galaxies and orchestrates the perfect harmony of nature. That means you have access to infinite wisdom. You have access to unlimited strength. You have access to a peace that exists beyond all understanding. But you can only access these things when you get out of your own way. You can only tap into this power when you stop trying to do everything yourself. You can only experience this peace when you surrender your need to control. And surrender is not defeat. Let me say that again because this is so important. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not admitting failure. Surrender is acknowledging that there's a greater intelligence at work and you're choosing to align with it rather than fight against it. Surrender is the ultimate act of faith. It's saying, I trust that I'm being taken care of even when I can't see how. I trust that everything is working out for my highest good, even when it doesn't look like it. I trust that God has got this, even when I feel lost. This trust, this faith, this willingness to surrender, it changes everything. It changes your energy. It changes how you show up in the world. It changes what you attract into your life. Because when you're not desperately clinging and grasping and forcing and controlling, you create space for miracles to happen. You create an opening for grace to flow in. You become a vessel through which the divine can work. And God is always trying to work through you. God is always trying to guide you. God is always trying to show you the way. But if you're too busy running around in fear and panic and anxiety, if you're too caught up in your own limited thinking and your own desperate attempts to fix everything, you can't hear the guidance. You can't see the signs. You can't feel the nudges that are trying to point you in the right direction. Leaving it in God's hands creates the stillness necessary to receive divine guidance. It creates the calm necessary to hear the whispers of intuition. It creates the clarity necessary to see the path that's being illuminated for you. And when you start to see these things, when you start to notice the synchronicities and the small miracles and the perfect timing of events, your faith deepens. Your trust strengthens. Your peace expands. You start to realize that you're never alone. You start to understand that you're always supported. You start to recognize that even in your darkest moments, even when you felt abandoned, even when you thought no one could possibly understand what you were going through, God was there. God was holding you. God was carrying you through. And those prayers you thought weren't being answered, they were being answered all along, just not in the way you expected. Not in the timing you demanded, not in the form you thought you needed, but in the way that was actually best for you, in the timing that was actually perfect for your growth, in the form that was actually aligned with your highest good. Every single thing you've been through has been preparing you for something. Every challenge has been teaching you something. Every hardship has been strengthening you in some way. And I know it's hard to see this when you're in the middle of the storm. I know it's difficult to believe this when you're drowning in pain, but it's true nonetheless. Your struggles are not punishments. Your difficulties are not evidence that you've done something wrong or that you're not worthy or that God has turned away from you. They're invitations to grow. They're opportunities to develop faith. They're chances to discover strength you didn't know you had. They're doorways to a deeper understanding of yourself and your connection to the recite. Divine. And when you can shift your perspective to see your challenges this way, when you can reframe your pain as a catalyst for transformation, when you can view your struggles as sacred assignments rather than cruel punishments, everything changes. The same circumstances that were making you bitter start making you better. The same situations that were filling you with resentment start filling you with resilience. The same experiences that were breaking you down start building you up. This is the alchemy that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. This is the magic that occurs when you surrender your burdens and trust the process. You don't become someone who never has problems. You become someone who handles problems differently. You don't become someone who never feels pain. You become someone who moves through pain with more grace. You don't become someone who never struggles. You become someone who struggles with faith instead of fear. And faith isn't the absence of doubt. Faith isn't pretending everything is fine when it's not. Faith isn't forcing yourself to smile when you want to cry. Real faith is being honest about where you are while still trusting where you're going. Real faith is acknowledging the difficulty while still believing in the possibility. Real faith is feeling the pain while still holding on to hope. Hope is not naive optimism. Hope is not denying reality. Hope is a spiritual practice. It's a choice you make every single day to believe that things can get better, even when you have no evidence. It's a decision to keep going, even when you're exhausted. It's a commitment to trust, even when you're scared. And every time you choose hope over despair, every time you choose faith over fear, every time you choose to trust God instead of trying to control everything yourself, you're building your spiritual strength. You're deepening your connection to the divine. You're becoming more aligned with your true nature. And this alignment is what ultimately brings the peace you're seeking. Because peace was never meant to come from having a perfect life. Peace was never meant to come from having all your problems solved. Peace was never meant to come from getting everything you want exactly when you want it. Peace comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Peace comes from trusting that you're being guided. Peace comes from believing that God has got you, and God does have you. Right now, in this moment, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how bad things look, regardless of how much pain you're in, God has you. You are held, you are loved, you are supported. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You will never be alone. The divine presence that breathed life into you at the beginning is with you now and will be with you always. This presence knows your name. This presence feels your pain. This presence hears your cry. And this presence is working on your behalf in ways you cannot see, in dimensions you cannot perceive, through means you cannot understand. Your job is not to figure it all out. Your job is not to make it all happen. Your job is not to force and push and control. Your job is to show up. Your job is to do the next right thing. Your job is to take one step at a time. And then your job is to trust, to have faith, to leave it in God's hands. When you do this, when you really do this, you'll start to notice things. You'll start to see how you're being guided. You'll start to recognize how doors are opening at exactly the right time. You'll start to realize how people are showing up with exactly what you need. You'll start to understand how everything is connected, how everything is orchestrated, how nothing is random. You'll look back at the times you thought you were lost, and you'll see that you were actually being redirected. You'll look back at the times you thought you were broken, and you'll see that you were actually being rebuilt into something stronger. You'll look back at the times you thought God wasn't listening, and you'll see that you were being heard all along. This is the perspective that comes with time and faith. This is the wisdom that comes from trusting the process. This is the peace that comes from leaving it in God's hands. And it's available to you right now, not someday when everything works out, not eventually when all your problems are solved. Right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. You don't have to wait until you're perfect to trust God. You don't have to wait until you have it all figured out to have faith. You don't have to wait until your life looks a certain way to surrender your burdens. You can do it now. You can do it right in the middle of your mess. You can do it while you're still hurting, while you're still struggling, while you're still scared. In fact, that's the best time to do it. When you're at the end of your rope, when you've tried everything else, when you have nowhere else to turn, that's when surrender becomes real. That's when faith becomes genuine. That's when trust becomes transformative. So if you're there right now, if you're at that place where you can't carry this anymore, if you're at that point where you need help, if you're at that moment where you're ready to let go, I want you to know that this is not a sign of weakness. This is a sign of wisdom. This is not giving up. This is waking up. This is not failure. This is faith. Take whatever burden you've been carrying and mentally place it in God's hands. See yourself physically taking this weight off your shoulders and giving it over to a power greater than yourself. Feel the relief that comes with releasing control. Feel the peace that flows in when you stop resisting. Feel the love that surrounds you when you remember you're not alone. And then, after you've surrendered it, after you've released it, after you've left it in God's hands, let it stay there. Don't pick it back up 5 minutes later. Don't take it back because you're nervous about how things will turn out. Don't grab onto it again because you think you know better. Let it go. Really let it go. Trust that it's being handled. Trust that it's being worked out. Trust that God's got this. This doesn't mean you'll never think about it again. It doesn't mean you'll never feel concerned. It doesn't mean you become completely detached. It means that when the worry comes back, when the fear creeps in, when the anxiety starts to rise, you notice it, you acknowledge it, and then you consciously choose to release it again. You say, no, I already gave this to God. I'm trusting the process. I'm having faith. And you do this as many times as necessary. This is the practice. This is the spiritual work. This is how you build your faith muscles and strengthen your trust and deepen your connection to the divine. Every time you catch yourself trying to take back control and you consciously choose to surrender again, you're growing. You're evolving. You're becoming more aligned with your true spiritual nature. This is not always easy. Some days it will feel natural and peaceful. Other days it will feel impossible and you'll struggle. And that's okay. That's part of being human. What matters is that you keep coming back to it. You keep choosing faith. You keep trusting. You keep leaving it in God's hands. And over time, something beautiful happens. The peace that felt temporary starts to feel more permanent. The trust that felt shaky starts to feel more solid. The faith that felt weak starts to feel stronger. And you realize that you're changing, not because your circumstances have necessarily changed, but because you have changed. Your relationship with life has changed. Your understanding of how the universe works has changed. Your connection to God has changed. You're no longer someone who falls apart at every obstacle. You're no longer someone who's controlled by fear. You're no longer someone who thinks they have to do everything alone. You've become someone who knows how to surrender. You've become someone who understands the power of faith. You've become someone who trusts that they're always being guided and supported by something greater than themselves. This transformation is what's waiting for you on the other side of surrender. This peace is what's available when you truly leave it in God's hands. This strength is what you discover when you stop trying to be strong all by yourself and instead allow yourself to be strengthened by divine power. So let go, release your grip, open your hands, stop fighting so hard, stop trying to control what you cannot control. Stop carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone. Put them down, hand them over. Leave them in God's hands. Trust that you are seen, trust that you are heard, trust that you are loved, trust that you are guided, trust that everything is working out for your highest good, even if you can't see how yet. Trust that your prayers are being answered, even if not in the way you expected. Trust that your pain has purpose, even if you don't understand it yet. And most of all, trust that you are not alone. You have never been alone. In your darkest moments, in your deepest pain, in your greatest struggles, God has been there. God has seen every tear. God has heard every cry. God has felt every heartbreak. And God is working on your behalf right now, in this very moment, arranging circumstances, aligning opportunities, preparing blessings that you cannot yet imagine. Your job is simply to trust, to have faith, to keep going, to take one step at a time, and to leave the rest in God's hands. Do this, and you will find peace. Do this, and you will find strength. Do this, and you will find that you're capable of handling whatever life brings your way. Not because you're doing it alone, but because you finally understood that you never had to. You were always meant to walk this path hand in hand with the divine, supported by infinite love, guided by infinite wisdom, held by infinite grace. Leave it in God's hands and watch what happens. Watch how things shift. Watch how doors open. Watch how solutions appear. Watch how your burden lifts. Watch how your peace deepens. Watch how your faith grows. Watch how your life transforms. Not always in the ways you expect, but always in the ways you need. Always at the perfect time. Always for your highest good. Always with love. Always with purpose. Always with grace. This is the promise. This is the truth. This is the way. Leave it in God's hands and trust that you are being taken care of, because you are. Right now, always, forever. You are not separate from God. You are not apart from the divine intelligence that creates worlds. Right now, in this very moment, the presence that spoke creation into existence is living and breathing through you. This is not philosophy. This is not religious doctrine. This is truth. And when you truly understand this, when you really get this at the level of your being, everything changes. Most of us have been taught to look outside ourselves for God. We've been conditioned to believe that the divine is somewhere out there, somewhere beyond us, somewhere we have to reach through prayers and rituals and perfect behavior. We've been told that we're separate, that we're flawed, that we need intermediaries to connect with the source of all life. But what if everything you've been taught is backwards? What if the very thing you've been searching for in temples and churches and holy places has been inside you all along? When you came into this physical world, you didn't come here empty. You brought with you the fullness of the divine. You are an individualized expression of the same force that creates galaxies and orchestrates the seasons and causes a seed to become a mighty tree. That force didn't abandon you at birth. It didn't leave you to struggle alone in this world. It is you. It is the very essence of who you are, beneath all the labels and roles and identities you've accumulated. Think about it for a moment. What is it that beats your heart? What is it that grows your hair and heals your cuts and digests your food while you sleep? You're not doing these things with your conscious mind. There's an intelligence within you, an infinite intelligence that knows exactly how to operate this miraculous body of yours. That intelligence is not separate from you. It is the divine presence expressing itself as you. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being hoping to have a spiritual experience. This is crucial to understand. Your true nature is spirit. Your true nature is eternal, infinite, and connected to everything. The human part, the physical part, the personality part, these are temporary costumes you're wearing. But underneath it all, at the core of your being, you are pure divine consciousness. Now you might be thinking, if God is within me, why do I feel so disconnected? Why do I struggle? Why do I feel pain and fear and doubt? And this is the beautiful part. You feel disconnected because you've been hypnotized by the world around you. You've been taught to identify with your ego, with your thoughts, with your past, with your circumstances. You've been taught to believe that you are your resume, your bank account, your relationships, your achievements. But none of these things are who you truly are. The ego is like a false self that develops as you grow up. It's the voice in your head that constantly judges and compares and worries. It's the part of you that believes you're separate from everyone and everything else. The ego looks at the world and sees separation. It sees you here and God there. It sees problems that need solving and gaps that need filling. But the ego is just a construct. It's not real. It's like a cloud that temporarily obscures the sun. The sun is always shining behind the clouds, and the divine presence is always radiating within you, even when you can't feel it. When you begin to quiet the ego, when you begin to move beyond the constant chatter of your thinking mind, that's when you start to experience the presence within. This is what meditation is really about. It's not about achieving some mystical state or seeing visions. It's about returning to your natural state, the state of pure awareness, the state where you recognize yourself as the divine expressing in human form. You see, God is not a person sitting on a throne in the sky. God is not a being separate from creation. God is the intelligence that flows through all things. God is the energy, the consciousness, the creative force that underlies everything that exists. And you are not separate from this. You are an integral part of it. You are a unique and necessary expression of it. Think of the ocean and the wave. The wave rises from the ocean, dances for a moment on the surface, and then returns to the ocean. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is made of the same water. It is the ocean expressing itself in a particular form. In the same way, you are not separate from the divine. You are the divine, expressing itself in a particular form called you. The wave might forget it's part of the ocean, but that doesn't change the reality. It's still ocean water through and through. When you know this, when you really live from this knowing, you stop looking outside yourself for fulfillment. You stop believing that your happiness depends on what happens to you or what you achieve or what other people think of you. You realize that the source of everything you've been seeking is already within you. Peace is within you. Love is within you. Joy is within you. Abundance is within you. Everything you need is already there, waiting for you to recognize it. This is what all the great spiritual teachers have been trying to tell us. Whether they call it God or Buddha nature or Christ consciousness or the Tao or pure awareness, they're all pointing to the same truth. There is a divine presence within you, and when you align with it, your life transforms. You move from struggle to flow. You move from fear to love. You move from limitation to infinite possibility. But here's what most people don't understand. Knowing this intellectually is not enough. You can read all the books and attend all the workshops and repeat all the affirmations, but if you don't actually practice living from this awareness, nothing changes. You have to make the shift from thinking about the divine presence to experiencing it. You have to move from believing to knowing, and this requires a willingness to let go of who you think you are. Your past does not define you. The mistakes you've made do not define you. The opinions others have of you do not define you. These are all just stories, narratives that your ego has constructed to make sense of your experience. But they're not truth. The truth is that you are an eternal being, forever connected to the source of all creation. You cannot be diminished. You cannot be broken. You cannot be unworthy. These are impossibilities when you understand your true nature. So many of us carry around beliefs about ourselves that are simply not true. We believe we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not worthy of love, we're not deserving of success. We believe these things because somewhere along the way, someone told us or showed us that this is who we are. But these beliefs are lies. They're veils that cover up the magnificent truth of your being. And you have the power to remove these veils right now. The divine presence within you doesn't judge you. It doesn't condemn you for your mistakes. It doesn't compare you to others. It simply loves you unconditionally and eternally. It sees you as you truly are, as a perfect expression of itself. When you can see yourself through the eyes of the divine, when you can love yourself the way the divine loves you, your entire experience of life shifts. Forgiveness becomes natural when you understand this. How can you hold on to grudges when you realize that the same divine presence is within everyone? How can you see others as enemies when you recognize that we're all connected at the source? The person who hurt you, the person who betrayed you, the person who seems so different from you, they too carry the divine presence within them. They may not know it. They may be completely identified with their ego. But that doesn't change the truth of who they are. When you forgive, you're not saying that what happened was okay. You're not condoning bad behavior. You're simply choosing to release the burden of resentment and anger that you've been carrying. You're choosing to return to love, which is your natural state. And when you forgive others, you also free yourself. You stop allowing the past to poison your present. You stop giving your power away to people and events that are long gone. The same is true for self-forgiveness. You must stop beating yourself up for the past. You must stop replaying your mistakes over and over in your mind. The divine presence within you has already forgiven you. It never condemned you in the first place. It only sees your innocence and your worthiness. The question is, when will you see it too? Living from the divine presence within means living from a place of total trust. It means knowing that you are always being guided, always being supported, always being loved. Even when things don't go the way you planned, even when you face challenges and setbacks, you can trust that there's a greater intelligence at work. You can trust that everything is happening for your growth and evolution. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop taking action or setting goals. It means you take inspired action from a place of alignment rather than desperate action from a place of fear. When you're connected to the divine presence within, you receive guidance. You get intuitive hits. You feel drawn in certain directions. And when you follow this inner knowing, doors open in miraculous ways. The universe is always conspiring on your behalf, but you have to be open to receive its gifts. You have to be willing to release your rigid plans and expectations. You have to be willing to say yes to opportunities that your ego might resist because they don't fit the picture you had in your mind. The divine presence knows the path. Your job is to trust and follow. So many people pray for things to be different. They pray for more money, better relationships, improved health, and then they wonder why their prayers aren't answered. But prayer is not about asking some external God to change your circumstances. Real prayer is about aligning yourself with the divine presence within and allowing it to express through you. It's about shifting your consciousness from lack to abundance, from fear to love, from limitation to possibility. When you pray, instead of asking for things, try this. Get quiet, go within, and simply rest in the presence. Feel the divine energy that animates your being. Connect with the source of all creation. And from that place of connection, allow yourself to feel what you want to feel. If you want abundance, feel abundant now. If you want love, feel loved now. If you want peace, feel peaceful now. The divine presence within you responds to your state of being, not to your words. This is how you become a magnet for miracles. When you vibrate at the frequency of what you desire, when you embody the feeling of already having it, you align yourself with that reality. You become a match for it. And then, in ways you couldn't have planned or predicted, it shows up in your life. This isn't magic, this is spiritual law. You attract what you are, not what you want. But you have to get out of your own way. You have to stop interfering with the flow of divine intelligence through you. Every time you worry, you're blocking the flow. Every time you doubt, you're blocking the flow. Every time you focus on what's wrong instead of what's right, you're blocking the flow. The divine presence is always trying to express love, abundance, joy, and creativity through you, but your negative thinking creates resistance. Your thoughts are incredibly powerful. They're not just random mental chatter, they're creative forces. Every thought you think is sending out a signal into the universe, attracting experiences and circumstances that match that thought. When you think thoughts of limitation, you create more limitation. When you think thoughts of possibility, you create more possibility. This is why it's so important to become aware of what you're thinking and to consciously choose thoughts that are aligned with your divine nature. The divine presence within you knows only abundance. It knows only love. It knows only wholeness. Lack and limitation exist only in the ego mind. When you align your thoughts with the divine presence, you begin to see the world differently. You begin to notice opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to feel grateful for what you have instead of anxious about what you don't have. And this shift in perception changes everything. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to connect with the divine presence within. When you appreciate the good in your life, you're acknowledging the source from which all good flows. You're recognizing that you are blessed, that you are supported, that you are provided for. And the more you practice gratitude, the more you have to be grateful for. This is the law of attraction in action. Start your day by giving thanks. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before you start thinking about your problems and your to-do list, take a few moments to feel grateful. Thank the divine presence within for your breath, for your beating heart, for the gift of another day. Thank it for your body, for your mind, for your ability to experience this beautiful world. Thank it for the people in your life, for the roof over your head, for the food you'll eat today. And as you do this, feel the gratitude in your body. Let it fill you up, let it overflow. When you live in a state of gratitude, you're living in a state of love. And love is the highest vibration there is. Love dissolves fear, love heals wounds, love attracts more love. The divine presence is love. It is pure, unconditional, infinite love. And when you tune into that love within yourself, you become a channel for it to flow out into the world. This is your purpose. This is why you're here. You're here to let the divine presence express through you. You're here to be a vessel for love, for light, for creativity, for healing. You're here to remember who you truly are and to help others remember who they truly are. Every interaction you have, every word you speak, every action you take is an opportunity to let the divine shine through you. But you can't give what you don't have. You can't share love if you don't feel loved. You can't bring light to others if you're living in darkness. This is why connecting with the divine presence within is not selfish. It's essential. When you take time to go within, to meditate, to pray, to simply be still and know, you're not being self-indulgent. You're filling up your cup so that you can pour into others. The world needs you to wake up to your divine nature. The world needs you to stop playing small, to stop hiding your light, to stop pretending you're less than you are. The world needs your unique gifts, your unique perspective, your unique expression of the divine. There is something you came here to do, something only you can do in the way you do it. And you'll never figure out what that is by looking outside yourself. You'll only discover it by going within and asking the divine presence to reveal it to you. Your inner guidance is always available. It speaks to you through your intuition, through your excitement, through the things that light you up and make you feel alive. It speaks to you through synchronicities and coincidences that are too meaningful to be random. It speaks to you through your body, through feelings of expansion when you're moving in the right direction, and feelings of contraction when you're moving away from your truth. Learn to listen. Learn to trust. Learn to follow the breadcrumbs that the divine presence leaves for you. And be willing to take risks. Be willing to step into the unknown. Be willing to do things that your logical mind says don't make sense. The divine presence doesn't operate according to human logic. It operates according to a higher intelligence, a wisdom that sees the bigger picture. You might not understand why you're being called in a certain direction. You might not see how it's all going to work out, but you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, and then the next step will be revealed. And then the next. This is what it means to walk by faith. It means trusting the divine presence within, even when you can't see the path ahead. Fear will try to stop you. The ego will come up with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't take that step. It will tell you you're not ready, you're not qualified, you're going to fail, you're going to look foolish. But these are just thoughts. They're not truth. And you don't have to believe them. You can acknowledge the fear and take the step anyway. You can feel the doubt and trust the divine presence anyway. You can face the uncertainty and move forward anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking action in the presence of fear. And every time you do this, every time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen your connection to the divine presence within. You prove to yourself that you can trust it. You experience its support in tangible ways. And gradually your faith grows stronger than your fear. This is how you transform your life. Not by trying to fix everything that's wrong, not by forcing and controlling and manipulating circumstances, but by aligning yourself with the divine presence within and allowing it to guide you. When you do this, you move into a state of flow. Life becomes easier, things fall into place, the right people show up at the right time, resources appear when you need them, solutions present themselves in unexpected ways. This is what's available to you when you stop trying to do everything on your own and instead partner with the infinite intelligence within you. You're not meant to struggle through life alone. You're not meant to figure everything out with your limited human mind. You have access to unlimited wisdom, unlimited creativity, unlimited power, but you have to claim it. You have to own it. You have to step into the truth of who you are. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are a creator, a divine being with the power to shape your reality. Every moment, you are creating your experience through your thoughts, your beliefs, your expectations, your focus. When you understand this, you take back your power. You stop blaming others for your unhappiness. You stop waiting for conditions to change before you can feel good. You realize that your inner state determines your outer experience, not the other way around. This is radical responsibility. This is spiritual maturity. This is what it means to wake up. You recognize that you are the author of your life story. And if you don't, like the story you've been telling, you can write a new one. You can choose different thoughts. You can adopt new beliefs. You can shift your focus from problems to possibilities. And as you do this consistently, your external reality begins to reflect your internal shift. The divine presence within you is always ready to support you in creating the life you desire. It doesn't judge your desires. It doesn't say this one is spiritual and this one is not. It simply responds to your energy, to your vibration, to what you're putting out. If you want more joy, become joy. If you want more abundance, embody abundance. If you want more love, be love. This is the secret that's been hidden in plain sight throughout all spiritual teachings. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are at your core is divine. You are love, peace, joy, abundance, creativity, wisdom, power. These qualities are not things you need to acquire or earn. They are your birthright. They are already within you. Your job is simply to remove the blocks that prevent you from experiencing them. And what are those blocks? They're all the false beliefs you've accumulated. They're all the conditioning you've absorbed from family, society, religion, media. They're all the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible for you. These beliefs act like walls that keep you separate from the divine presence within. But here's the good news. You built those walls, and you can tear them down. It starts with awareness. You have to become conscious of your thoughts and beliefs. You have to catch yourself when you're thinking limiting thoughts. You have to question the stories you've been telling yourself. Are they really true? Or are they just old programs running on autopilot? When you bring awareness to your thinking, you create space. And in that space, you have the power to choose. You can choose to let go of thoughts that don't serve you. You can choose to release beliefs that hold you back. You can choose to stop identifying with your past. You can choose to stop worrying about the future. You can choose to be fully present in this moment, right here, right now. And when you're fully present, when you're not lost in mental time travel, you experience the divine presence because it only exists now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. This present moment is all you ever have. The past is gone. It exists only as a memory in your mind. The future hasn't happened yet. It exists only as a projection in your mind. The only reality is now. And in the now, you are always okay. In the now, there are no problems. There's just what is. And when you accept what is, when you stop resisting this moment, you find peace. You find the divine presence that has been here all along. So much of our suffering comes from our resistance to what is. We want things to be different than they are. We argue with reality. We say, this shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't have done that. I should be further along by now. But reality is what it is, regardless of our opinions about it. And when we fight against reality, we lose every time. Not because reality defeats us, but because we defeat ourselves with our own resistance. Acceptance is not the same as resignation. You're not saying you like what's happening or that you won't work to change it. You're simply acknowledging what is without adding layers of mental suffering on top of it. You're saying yes to this moment, exactly as it is. And paradoxically, when you stop resisting what is, you create space for things to shift and change. When you're not using all your energy fighting against reality, that energy becomes available for creative solutions and new possibilities. The divine presence within you accepts everything. It doesn't judge experiences as good or bad. It simply witnesses and loves. It sees the perfection in everything, even in what we call problems or challenges. From the perspective of the divine, everything is an opportunity for growth, for learning, for evolution. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wrong. Everything is part of the perfect unfolding of your journey. When you adopt this perspective, you stop being a victim. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this here to teach me? You look for the gift in every situation. You trust that even the difficult experiences are serving your highest good in some way. And this trust, this faith in the divine intelligence orchestrating your life brings tremendous peace. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to have all the answers. You can relax into the knowing that you are being held, guided, and loved by the infinite presence within you. You can surrender the need to control every outcome and instead flow with life. You can stop pushing and forcing and striving and instead allow things to unfold naturally. This is not being passive or lazy. This is being in alignment. When you're aligned with the divine presence, action flows effortlessly from you. You know what to do and when to do it. You're not paralyzed by indecision or driven by anxiety. You're simply responding to life from a place of inner clarity and peace. And the actions you take from this place are far more effective than all the struggle and effort that comes from the ego. The ego believes that you have to work hard, sacrifice, and prove yourself to be worthy of success and happiness. But the divine presence knows that worthiness is your natural state. You don't have to earn it, you already have it. And when you live from this knowing, you approach life very differently. You stop trying to prove yourself to others. You stop comparing yourself to anyone else. You stop seeking validation and approval from outside sources. You become free. Free to be yourself, fully and authentically. Free to express your truth without fear of judgment. Free to follow your own path without needing anyone's permission. Free to create the life that resonates with your soul, not the life that others expect you to live. This freedom is your birthright. It's what happens when you reconnect with the divine presence within and let it lead the way. And as you step into this freedom, something magical happens. You inspire others to do the same. You give them permission, just by being yourself, to be themselves. You show them what's possible when you trust the divine presence within. You become a light that helps others find their way out of the darkness of fear and limitation and into the truth of who they really are. This is how we change the world. Not through force or manipulation or trying to convince others of what we believe, but by embodying the truth ourselves, by being living examples of what it means to live from the divine presence, by radiating love, peace, and joy in a world that desperately needs these qualities, by choosing faith over fear, trust over doubt, and connection over separation. You have this power within you right now. You don't need to wait until you're more spiritual or more evolved or more anything. You are ready right now. The divine presence is within you right now. It's been there your whole life, patiently waiting for you to recognize it, to claim it, to let it express through you. And the moment you do, everything begins to shift. Your relationships improve because you stop trying to get love from others and instead give love from the overflow of what you feel within. Your abundance increases because you stop believing in scarcity and start trusting in the infinite supply of the universe. Your health improves because you release stress and worry and allow your body's natural healing intelligence to function optimally. Your creativity flourishes because you stop blocking the flow with self-doubt and instead let inspiration pour through you. Every area of your life is touched by this awareness. There is no separation between your spiritual life and your everyday life. The divine presence infuses everything. Your work becomes an expression of the divine. Your relationships become opportunities to see the divine in others. Your challenges become invitations to trust the divine more fully. Your joys become celebrations of the divine expressing through you. You are here to be a unique expression of the divine presence. Not a copy of anyone else. Not a watered-down version of yourself. But the fullest, most authentic, most radiant version of who you truly are. And the world needs this. The world needs your light. The world needs your gifts. The world needs your love. Not someday when you have it all figured out, but right now, exactly as you are, because you are enough. The divine presence within you is whole and complete. It lacks nothing. And when you identify with this presence, instead of with your ego, you experience that wholeness. You feel complete within yourself. You no longer need external validation or approval or success to feel good about yourself. You are enough. Simply because you exist, simply because you are an expression of the divine. This is the truth that sets you free. This is the truth that dissolves all fear. This is the truth that opens you to infinite possibilities. The presence of God is within you, not as a belief to adopt, but as a reality to experience. Not as a concept to understand, but as a truth to embody. Not as something that might be true, but as something that is true, always has been true, and always will be true. You are never alone. You are never separate. You are never without guidance or support or love. The infinite presence that creates universes lives in you, breathes through you, and expresses as you. And when you truly know this, when you live from this knowing every day, you become unstoppable. Not because you have no challenges or obstacles, but because you face them with the knowledge that the divine presence within you is greater than any challenge you could ever face. This is your inheritance. This is your truth. This is who you are beneath all the layers of conditioning and false identity. You are divine. You are eternal. You are infinite. And the sooner you claim this truth, the sooner you step into the magnificent life that's been waiting for you all along. The presence of God is within you. It always has been. It always will be. And now is the time to let it shine.